We had two brand new pieces of Marvel casting news, both dealing with the Fantastic Four. I'm over them real quick. First one is like a full, we know who this guy is, we know who he's playing. Second, we know the actor, we don't know the character, so we'll speculate a little bit, although I don't think it's going to be incredibly important. Let's talk about the one we know. We have known for a while that Galactus is going to feature in this Fantastic Four movie somehow. We're not sure what he's going to be doing, if he's going to be like the full antagonist, or if he's going to be kind of like Thanos in the first Avengers movie, where his presence is felt, but like he's clearly not the main threat. Maybe someone's working for him, or maybe he's just like looming in the distance. Maybe there's just like a tiny scene where Reed gets a vision of a guy with a big giant hat saying something about eating a planet. And then it's like, oh my God, Galactus, because that's kind of how he's treated in the Fantastic Four life story comic. It's kind of like this horror vision that's stuck in Reed's head that's kind of driving him to, you know, constantly prepare for Galactus. And everybody's like, Reed, there's no such thing as Galactus. And then Galactus shows up. Anyway, it's been rumored that there will be some actor playing this role. Antonio Banderas, I believe, at one point was heavily rumored to be playing the role, especially early when like we barely knew Galactus was going to be in it. It was like it came with, and Antonio Banderas is probably going to be playing him. That is gone. And then Javier Bardem was the new front runner, I guess. Apparently he maybe had an offer. None of this matters because we have a different guy and it's neither of them. And it is an actor that has a wonderful voice, Ralph Ineson. So people probably know him from a couple different things. One, he has like small roles in the Harry Potter movies. He is one of the people that takes over Slytherin when Snape becomes the headmaster. So I believe it's like a set of twins. I don't know their names. I don't really care. I'm not a humongous Harry Potter fan, but I do know a lot of people know him from there. He also has like a face that I wouldn't say is like, just an interesting face. Like you're like, you see him in a couple of things and you start picking up he's one of those guys. I imagine most people probably recognize his face from Game of Thrones, where he played one of those Iron Islands guys. Specifically, he's one of the ones where Theon is like, let's go kill everybody in Winterfell. And he's like, okay. And then he's like, you suck. And he hits him over the head with a big pole or something, knocks him out. I do remember him pretty well. But he's got so much other fun work, so much other great stuff. I think the role that I saw when I looked up Ralph Ineson, that was my like, can he do it? And at that point, I was pretty much like, yeah, I do think he can. Because like he's a good, you know, bad guy. Obviously, those two characters are pretty bad. He's one of the guys in the Willow show who starts off as good and gets turned evil by like magic or something. I believe that he also like hurt his leg really badly and couldn't do like stunt stuff after that for a while. So like that wasn't great, but he was okay in the Willow show. But the role that I saw that gave me more confidence than I could have ever imagined was that Ralph Ineson played the Green Knight in the new movie, The Green Knight, based on the story Gawain and the Green Knight, starring Dev Patel. Now, for people that haven't seen it, I'm not going to like fully spoil it, but the basic premise is this guy shows up named the Green Knight, and he issues a challenge. Anybody that can deliver a wound to him, he will deliver that same wound in a year, and you get to have his axe. And it's like, you know, it's an interesting challenge. And there's this hotshot called Gawain, played by Dev Patel, who's like, oh, I got an idea. And he cuts his head off. He's like, oh, he's dead. He can't come and inflict that wound on me. And then the Green Knight continues to live because he's like a supernatural being of the forest or whatever. And he's like, all right, 1 year's time, Gawain. So the Green Knight is one of those characters where sure he exists, but he more than like other ones represents this concept, this, you know, thing you dread. Responsibility, maybe you could call it that. You could call it, you know, it's like fate, or maybe it's like nature, how you just can't escape death. You just have to kind of face it, because that's a lot of what the movie is. It's Gawain trying to come to terms with it. This guy is going to cut off his head in a year, and like, what is that worth? What are any of these quests worth? What's life? What I love is like, he's not supposed to have like a lot of emotion, and he does. The Green Knight has like a surprising amount of like, like that's like a, you know, supernatural spirit or whatever, but he's also like a guy. I can't really describe it without describing the last scene of the movie. So I say like watch it. It's real weird, but I had a good time with it. But yeah, as far as actors that have played roles where they are representing some sort of supernatural force of nature that is supposed to fill characters that see it with dread, that's the Green Knight. So that's perfect. Ralph Ineson right over there. Great. Another thing he's done recently that I love. He played the voice of Asmodeus in The Pope's Exorcist, one of my favorite movies of last year. He was the voice of the demon that the Pope is trying to exorcise from the little boy. So that's a good one. That's fun. I like that he's doing that. He also seems to be one of those Robert Eggers guys, because he's in The Vavitch, obviously. And then he also shows up in Northman, and he's got a part in that Nosferatu movie that I cannot wait for. But like, done a lot of really serious stuff recently. He was in the Macbeth movie that I think was excellent. He's just great. He's got an amazing voice. He does plenty of voice work. He was in the Final Fantasy game that came out kind of recently. I don't know anything about those, so I can't really talk to whether or not that character was Galactus-esque. But yeah, for me, Ralph Ineson, like, it doesn't get much better than the Green Knight is playing Galactus. Like, those roles are so similar, and you need to be so kind of emotionless, ethereal, but also dangerous, serious. Like, it's perfect. I can't wait. And he seems cool. You know, he's been working for a while. I'm excited. My one hope with this character is we don't see too much of him. You know, he's in a little bit of the movie, so he offers a very strong presence, but we don't, like, beat him up. Also say, Ralph, if you're watching, congratulations. I liked you in Willow. I liked you in The Pope's Exorcist. But I think it's interesting that they, I don't fault, like, the Variety article for describing Galactus as a villain. But I do want to say to people, like, Galactus isn't a villain. He's just a thing. The same way that, like, the sea isn't a villain. The same way that, like, the shark isn't the villain in Jaws. All I mean is, Galactus is a dispassionate force of nature. So you're not writing, like, a story where you fight Galactus is not the same as a story where you fight Doctor Doom, because you can appeal to Doctor Doom's ego and things like that. And that's what's scary about Galactus, is he's not one of those guys. He's just a guy. Like that speech that Thanos gives in the beginning of Infinity War, the dread it, run from it, destiny arrives, all the same. That's a Galactus thing. Like, on it, Thanos, I mean, maybe he knows about Galactus, but, like, that is the kind of energy that Thanos is trying to show off. And it's this kind of thing that Galactus just does. I also think it's so funny that in The Green Knight, after Gawain cuts off the Green Knight's head, the Green Knight picks up the Green Knight's head and says, 1 year hence. And that is very similar to what, like, a Silver Surfer is supposed to do when he shows up on a planet, is say, like, 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks before Galactus comes and eats you. So, yeah, finish whatever that thing is you were doing, those TV shows or puzzle or whatever. So that's first one. Confirmed, excited. Great. Second one, we don't know who this actor is playing, but John Malkovich is apparently in this movie. I mean, I don't even know what to say for people like you probably know John Malkovich from, I don't know, from Being John Malkovich, from that movie, those Red movies where they're like spies. What is his big movie? Rounders? All right, so I would say two other ones that I think are big John Malkovich movies that, like, I didn't think about because they're, you know, a teeny bit older than some of those other ones. He's very interesting in The Man in the Iron Mask, that strange Leonardo DiCaprio, like, Three Musketeers movie, and he's great as Cyrus the Virus in Con Air. He's the villain in that movie. He's known for his characters, and, like, Bill Hader did a great impression of him on SNL, where he speaks like this, very slowly, very quietly, and then raises his voice. You know, he's kind of like what Christoph Waltz, but, like, if his characters were all, like, really surprised all the time. And he's become that guy. He's played a lot of villains because of how menacing he can be. I think he's great. I think he's very exciting. He was rumored, I don't know. I mean, I think he's more than rumored at this point, but, like, I think he was supposed to play the Vulture in a fourth Spider-Man movie in the Raimi movies, like in some 2010 or something. That would have been his role. And he would have been good for that. That could be what he's playing in Fantastic Four. We don't know. I do think, like, we've got the four. The Silver Surfer, Galactus, he wouldn't be a very good robot. Paul Walter Hauser, by the way, also in this movie apparently, he would be a pretty good robot, be Herbie the Robot. But that leaves a lot of spaces, but not like, I mean, he could be a lot of characters, right? Especially because this takes place on a different Earth. He could be the president of that Earth or something, like USA on that Earth, but, like, not a character from comics, just some guy. He could be some executive in a company that's trying to buy them out, but if we're having fun, and I think we are in this movie, it would be kind of a waste if we don't get to do something a little weird. And I think there's a lot of deep cut, not even deep cut. Fantastic Four feels like there's, like, Doctor Doom, the greatest villain in the history of comics or whatever. So, like, obviously he's very high up. And Galactus, the most dangerous guy that ever did live. And then, like, right below that, you have other characters that have been, like, the main villain in big stories, right? Annihilus is a Fantastic Four villain, so I think, like, he fits on their beats here. There's other characters that are really dangerous, like Blastar is like an alien, so he's like, if he just showed up, he could beat up a lot of guys. But then they also have a lot of, like, characters, like the Mad Thinker, or the Wizard, or the Puppet Master, or Mole Man, that are just weirdos, weird guys. with obsessions, usually science-y. They're usually either scientists or former scientists or something that for whatever reason feel they need to challenge Reed Richards, build a weird thing, and causes a lot of trouble. I would not be surprised if, I'd be shocked if John Malkovich is like a nihilist or something, and he's probably not Doctor Doom. So like those two I'd say are out. Although he'd be an interesting nihilist, you know? I could see it. I could absolutely see it. But I would say it's probably more likely that he is playing one of the, what you would say is kind of a jobber villain for the Fantastic Four. Although I would say it's not like jobber villains, you would say, or maybe like someone like Blob, you know, from X-Men, where he's just like a big tough guy who can rob a bank and then you fight him. Like these guys are more like, they all think they're Doctor Doom, but they're not Doctor Doom. I'll go through the four of them that I mentioned because I do think those are the four most likely. Mole Man, I think, is interesting because Mole Man's a really specific kind of guy, but he's also a pretty high profile character that has not been in one of these outside of, you know, that character technically is played by Tim Blake Nelson in the Fan Four Stick movie, but like didn't do any Mole Man stuff with him. So he, I'd say, is the highest profile villain in that list that's never been in one of these. You got the Wizard, who I'd say actually, I kind of feel the Wizard here. Just that he is like this scientific rival to Reed Richards, but the difference between him and the Mad Thinker, well, I'd say the thing with the Mad Thinker is he just kind of looks like a caveman. Yeah, I don't know, like if you look at like what the Mad Thinker looks like, and then you look at what the Wizard looks like, it's like the Wizard is closer to what we're looking for with John Malkovich. And he's basically a guy with an Iron Man suit. You know, he's not all that interesting. Other characters that it could be, before we get to the other one I like, there's like Trapster, Paste Pot Pete, Fantastic Four villain. Kind of be funny to see, you know, John Malkovich run around in a Paste Pot Pete outfit, trying to spray people with glue and stuff. There's like Grey Gargoyle. I don't think he's really fits for Grey Gargoyle. Also, he's more of an Iron Man villain. You get Dragon Man. Dragon Man's tricky. He is an experiment brought to life, but he is supposed to be kind of smart. He would be voiced by someone like I don't think that's a crazy voice pick. I would say the character that it seems the most likely if I had to take a guess, only because I don't think he quite fits the profile of Mole Man, which is like kind of diminutive and weird, is the Puppet Master. And you know, he is a classic Fantastic Four villain, also bald, which helps. But I think the Wizard is too. And this guy, his name is Philip Masters. The Fantastic Four villains have some pretty weird names. And this guy is Alicia Masters. The Thing's, like, you know, one true pairing, whatever. Her father is this scientist who does mind control and sometimes does it with the puppets. So little like clay puppets he can use to control you. So he can make one. I don't know how any of it works, but like I don't know if he. I think he's like a scientist, so I'm sure there's a machine or something where but he could like make the Thing fight the Human Torch using the puppets. I don't know. I do think that's likely. I think it's probably one of them. I hope so. That could be fun. That'd be really fun. I think it'd be great. But yeah, I'm very excited about the Galactus casting, and John Malkovich is cool. Glad to see him in here. We're really starting to fill out this movie. I imagine they'll start to shoot it kind of soon, since it's releasing right around the same time as Superman, and Superman is well into shooting. So I'm curious to see what we end up with, but right now, that's an update about 2 actors that are in there, and Paul Walter Hauser is probably playing the robot. I don't know. But besides that, thank you guys for watching, and we will keep checking in on stuff like this as it happens.